The plane touched down at Incheon International Airport at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday that would change 2 lives forever. Chioma Okafor pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching Seoul emerge through morning fog, a city of steel and glass that looked nothing like Lagos. Her stomach twisted with that particular cocktail of fear and determination that came with crossing an ocean for a job you couldn't afford to lose. 6 months. That's all this was. 6 months caring for a dying woman, sending money home to her siblings, then back to Nigeria to figure out the rest of her life. Simple, professional, temporary. The immigration officer stamped her visa without looking at her face. She collected her single battered suitcase. Everything she owned that mattered fit inside, and walked into the arrivals hall where a driver should be waiting. The man holding the sign with her name wasn't a driver. He was built like a wall, wearing a black suit that did nothing to hide the gun holstered under his jacket. His face was a map of old violence. Scar tissue around his eyes, a nose that had been broken more than once, the kind of stillness that came from being comfortable with danger. "Miss Okafor?" His English was accented but clear. "I'm Chin. Mr. Kong sent me to collect you." Chioma's nursing instincts kicked in automatically, assessing, cataloging. This wasn't a driver. This was security. The kind that suggested her patient's son wasn't just wealthy. He was powerful, and possibly dangerous. "Thank you," she said, keeping her voice steady. In Lagos, you learned early how to move through spaces where power lived. You kept your head up but your eyes down. You spoke clearly but didn't challenge. She'd survived this. The car was a black Mercedes with windows so dark she couldn't see out. Chun drove in silence through streets that got progressively cleaner, more expensive, until they were climbing into hills where houses became estates became compounds. They stopped at a gate that looked like it belonged to a military installation. Guards, cameras, walls topped with something that might have been decorative but Chioma suspected was very functional security. The gate opened. They drove through. The house, no, the mansion, sat at the top of the hill like a crown. Modern, all glass and sharp angles, surrounded by gardens that looked like they required a full-time staff to maintain. The kind of wealth that didn't just whisper. It owned the whole conversation. "Mrs. Kong is on the 3rd floor, Chun said, opening her door. "Mr. Kong is occupied. He'll speak with you when he's available." Translation: Don't expect a warm welcome. Another man, younger, less scarred but equally alert, took her suitcase. Chioma followed him inside, trying not to gawk at the marble floors, the art that was probably worth more than her family's house, the staircase that curved up like something from a drama. The 3rd floor was quieter, softer. The harsh modernity of the lower floors gave way to something warmer, wood panels, traditional Korean furniture, the smell of incense and something medicinal. A hospice floor. Chioma recognized it instantly. The young man opened a door, and Chioma stepped into what was clearly a sick room that had been made as comfortable as possible. Hospital bed by the window, medical equipment hidden behind decorative screens, flowers everywhere. The kind of desperate cheerfulness people created when they were trying to pretend death wasn't sitting in the corner, waiting. In the bed, small and frail against white pillows, lay a woman who had probably once been beautiful. Now she was all sharp bones and translucent skin. Her breathing labored even in sleep. Stage 4 cancer, Chioma's practiced, I told her. Maybe weeks left, maybe days. "Mrs. Kong," the young man said softly, "your nurse has arrived from Nigeria." The woman's eyes opened, surprisingly bright, surprisingly warm. She studied Chioma for a long moment, then smiled. "You're very beautiful," she said in English, her voice papery thin, "and very far from home. Thank you for coming." Chioma felt something in her chest crack slightly. She'd cared for dozens of terminal patients. She knew how to maintain professional distance. But something about this woman, the gentleness despite obvious pain, the gratitude when Chioma should be thanking her for the job, got through her defenses. "It's my honor, Mrs. Kong," Chioma said, meaning it. "I'm here to make you as comfortable as possible." "Call me Yunji," the woman said. "And you are Chioma. A beautiful name. What does it mean?" "God is good," Chioma answered. "In Igbo." God is good, Yunji repeated, her smile widening. Yes, even now God is good. He sent you to me. Comment below if you've ever cared for someone you loved at the end of their life. This story is for you. Blue Heart. Chioma didn't meet the sun until the third day. She'd settled into a routine, morning assessments, medication management, keeping Yunji comfortable and, when pain allowed, entertained. The older woman liked to talk, and Chioma found herself enjoying their conversations. Yunji asked about Nigeria, about Chioma's family, about the siblings she was supporting back home. For younger ones, Chioma explained, adjusting Yunji's pillows. I'm the oldest. After our parents died, I became, well, everything. Mother, father, ATM machine. Yunji laughed, a sound that turned into coughing. Chioma was there with water, with gentle hands, with the practiced calm of someone who'd guided many people through this particular journey. You sacrificed much, Yunji said when she could breathe again, to come here, away from them. The money is good, Chioma said simply. 6 months here means 2 years of university fees paid. That's not sacrifice. That's investment. You're very practical. Yunji's eyes were knowing, but also very lonely, I think. Before Chioma could answer, the door opened. The man who walked in made the already large room feel smaller. He was tall for a Korean man, probably 6 feet, with the kind of presence that came from being accustomed to command. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, face that was all angles and control. Handsome in the way a blade was handsome, beautiful but dangerous. And young. Much younger than Chioma had expected. Maybe late 30s. Mother, he said in Korean, his voice low and surprisingly gentle. Then his eyes landed on Chioma, and the gentleness evaporated. You're the nurse. It wasn't a question. His English was perfect, British accented, cold. Chioma Okafor, she said, straightening her spine. She'd dealt with difficult family members before. Your mother is doing well today. Her pain is managed. And, I'll need daily reports, he interrupted. Medication schedules, any changes in condition, prognosis updates. Chun will give you a secure phone. All communication goes through him. Chioma blinked. I usually report directly to family. I'm not usually available. His tone made it clear the discussion was over. My mother seems comfortable. That's what matters. Continue as you have been. He moved to his mother's bedside, and his entire demeanor shifted. He took her small hand in his, so carefully, like she was made of glass, pressed a kiss to her forehead, murmured something in Korean that made Yunji smile. For just a moment, Chioma saw past the ice, saw the fear underneath, the love. Then he straightened, and the mask was back. Thank you for your service, Miss Okafor. He nodded once and left, the door closing with quiet finality behind him. Chioma released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Don't mind Taehyun, Yunji said softly. He's protecting himself. He's very good at walls. He seems very. Chioma searched for a diplomatic word. Cold? Distant? Terrifying? Yunji's eyes twinkled. Yes, he's all of those things. But he wasn't always. Life made him hard. Grief made him frozen. Grief. Yunji's expression grew sad. 5 times my son tried to build a family. 5 times he failed. Not because he wasn't good enough. Because he couldn't give them what they wanted most. Now he believes he's broken. Unworthy. Chioma wanted to ask what that meant. What could make a man this powerful feel broken? But professional boundaries held her tongue. Still, something about the loneliness in Yunji's voice when she talked about her son, the fear that she was leaving him alone in the world, made Chioma's heart ache. She knew what it was like to feel responsible for people you loved, to feel like you were failing them. Have you ever felt like you had to be strong for everyone else, even when you were breaking inside? Drop a broken heart if you understand. 2 weeks passed before Chioma saw Taehyun again. Chun delivered her paycheck, American dollars, more money than she'd ever held at once, and messages from Mr. Kong about his mother's care. But the man himself remained absent. He's dealing with business, Yunji explained on a good day, when pain medication made her chatty rather than drowsy. Taehyun runs. Well, he runs many things. Import-export, shipping, real estate, and other things we don't talk about in polite company. Chioma had figured out within the first week that the Kong family business wasn't entirely legal. The security, the weapons, the way people moved through the house with military precision. This wasn't a normal corporate empire. This was organized crime. She should have been more scared. But in Lagos, you learned that power came in many forms. The man in the government office could be just as dangerous as the man with the gun. Sometimes more so. She kept her head down, did her job, and tried not to think about what import-export really meant. Then came the night everything shifted. It was 2 a.m. and Chioma was dozing in the chair beside Yunji's bed. She'd taken to sleeping in the room rather than in the guest quarters downstairs, just in case, when she heard shouting from below. Korean, rapid and angry. Then a crash. Then silence. Yunji stirred. "Taehyun?" she whispered, fear in her voice. Chioma's instincts screamed at her to stay put. This wasn't her business. This wasn't her world. But she was a nurse, and something in Yunji's fear made her move. She slipped out of the room and down the hallway. The shouting had come from the second floor. She descended the stairs carefully, following the sound of harsh breathing. The study door was ajar. Through it, she could see Taehyun, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, one hand bleeding, the other hand gripping a glass of what looked like whiskey. Blood on his white shirt. Not his blood. Too much of it, too scattered. He sensed her presence and turned. For a moment, something wild and dangerous flashed in his eyes. Then recognition. Then walls slamming back into place. "You should be with my mother. Your mother is sleeping." Chioma stepped into the room, her nursing training overriding her common sense. "You're bleeding. It's nothing. Let me see. Miss Okafor. My name is Chioma, and you're dripping blood on an expensive carpet. Let me see the hand." Maybe it was surprise. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe the whiskey. But Taehyun held out his hand. Chioma guided him to a chair, found the first aid kit she'd spotted days ago. Prepared families always had multiple. And cleaned the wound. Deep cut across the palm. Recent. Still bleeding freely. "This needs stitches," she said. "Can you do it?" She should say no. Should tell him to go to a hospital. Should maintain professional boundaries. But she'd stitched up her youngest brother after a bike accident because the hospital was too expensive. Had learned field medicine because in Nigeria sometimes you didn't have a choice. "I can do it," she said. She worked in silence, aware of his eyes on her face, aware of how close they were, aware that this was probably a terrible idea, treating what was clearly a violence-related injury without asking questions. "Who hurt you?" she asked anyway, keeping her voice gentle. "No one hurt me." "Then whose blood is on your shirt?" Silence. Then, "Someone who made a mistake." Chioma tied off the last stitch. "Did they survive their mistake? Does it matter?" She looked up at him then, really looked, saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight he carried, the loneliness that matched the grief his mother had described. "I suppose not," she said quietly. "But for what it's worth, you don't look like a man who enjoys violence. You look like a man who's tired of it." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. "You should go back to my mother," he said, but his voice had lost its edge. "You should get some sleep," she countered. "The human body needs rest to heal. Even yours." The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "Thank you, Chioma." It was the first time he'd said her name. She gathered the medical supplies and headed for the door, then paused. "Your mother worries about you," she said. "She thinks you're alone, that you've built walls so high, no one can reach you anymore." "My mother says too much. She loves you. That's not too much. That's exactly enough." Chioma left before he could respond. Behind her, she heard the soft clink of glass on wood, the whiskey being set down unfinished. It was a small thing, but sometimes small things mattered most. 3 days later, Taehyun came to his mother's room in the middle of the afternoon, not for a brief check-in, but to sit, to stay. Chioma was reading to Yunji, a Korean novel translated to English, something about star-crossed lovers, when he arrived. She moved to leave, give them privacy, but Yunji caught her hand. "Stay," the older woman said. "Please, I like having you both here. My two favorite people." Taehyun's eyes met Chioma's. A silent question. She nodded slightly and settled back into her chair. For the next hour, they simply existed together. Chioma read. Yunji dozed. Taehyun sat by the window, doing nothing, just being present. Felt surprisingly peaceful. When Yunji woke, she looked between them and smiled. "See?" she said to her son. "This is nice. This is what family feels like." Taehyun's jaw tightened. "Mother, I'm dying, Taehyun. Let me speak." Yunji's voice was gentle but firm. "You've been alone too long. Since the last one left, you've built yourself into a fortress. But fortresses are prisons too. This isn't the time. When is the time? When I'm gone." Yunji reached for his hand. "I worry about leaving you alone. About you spending the rest of your life convinced you're not worthy of love. Convinced you're broken." Chioma saw Taehyun flinch. Saw real pain cross his face before the mask slammed back. "I'm fine, Mother. You're surviving. That's not the same as living." Yunji turned to Chioma. "Did I tell you about my son's marriages?" "Mother, please." 5 women. Yunji continued as if he hadn't spoken. 5 beautiful women who my son married. And 5 women who left. Chioma's stomach sank. She didn't want to hear this. Didn't want to know the private wounds of this complicated man. But Yunji wasn't asking permission. "Do you know why they left?" the older woman asked. Chioma shook her head. "Because my son is infertile." The words dropped like stones. After childhood cancer treatment, he can't have biological children. And each wife, when she learned this, when adoption was the only option, chose to leave rather than build a family without his genetics. Chioma's eyes flew to Taehyun. He was staring out the window, every line of his body rigid. "Mother, that's enough." "No, it's not enough. Because now you believe that you're less than a man. That you're defective. That no woman will ever truly want you." Yunji's voice broke. "And I'm dying knowing I failed to convince you otherwise." The silence that followed was devastating. Then Taehyun stood, kissed his mother's forehead, and walked out without a word. Chioma sat frozen, her heart aching for both of them. The mother desperate to heal her son before leaving him. The son too wounded to accept that healing. "I shouldn't have said it in front of you," Yunji whispered. "But I'm running out of time. And I thought, maybe what? Maybe you could help him see. You understand about family in ways those other women didn't." Chioma's breath caught. "Mrs. Kong, I'm just the nurse." "You're a woman who was adopted," Yunji interrupted. "Chun told me. Your parents adopted you when you were 3, gave you their name, loved you as their own. You know that blood isn't what makes family real." "How did she know? Had they investigated her?" "That's different," Chioma said carefully. "My adoption taught you that being chosen is more powerful than being born to someone." Yunji gripped her hand with surprising strength. "That's what Taehyun needs to understand. He needs someone who knows that truth in her bones. Someone who won't see his infertility as a loss but as a different kind of gift." "Mrs. Kong, I'm here for 6 months. Then I return to Nigeria. Whatever you're suggesting." "I'm suggesting nothing." Yunji's eyes were knowing. "I'm just planting a seed. What grows from it? That's up to you and my stubborn son. Drop a green heart if you're adopted, or if you believe chosen family is just as real as blood family. This one's for all of you." Chioma found him on the roof at midnight. She tried to sleep after settling Yunji for the night, but Yunji's words kept echoing. And her own memories, being 3 years old in an orphanage in Lagos, being chosen by the Okafors, understanding even that young that she was wanted, not just tolerated. Maybe it was none of her business. Maybe she should stay in her lane. But something about Taehyun's pain called to something in her. The roof access was supposed to be locked, but the door opened easily. She found him at the edge, looking out over Seoul's glittering sprawl, a bottle of whiskey beside him. "Did my mother send you?" He didn't turn around. "No. I came because—" She paused. Why had she come? "Because I understand something about what she told me today. And I thought you might want to talk to someone who actually gets it." "You don't know me, Chioma." Her name in his mouth sent an unwelcome shiver through her. "No. But I know what it's like to be made to feel like you're not enough." She moved to stand beside him, careful to keep distance between them. "My biological parents abandoned me. Left me at an orphanage with a note that said they couldn't afford to keep me. For years, even after adoption, I wondered what was wrong with me. What made me not worth keeping." Now he turned to look at her. "The Okafors chose me," she continued. "Walked into that orphanage and pointed at me specifically. Said, 'That one. We want that one.' Do you know what that felt like? To be chosen? Not accepted out of obligation, but wanted. That's not the same." "It's exactly the same." She cut him off gently. "Your future children, if you adopt them, won't be born to you, but they'll be chosen by you. Do you know how powerful that is? How many adopted children would tell you that being chosen meant more than being born?" Taehyun was silent for a long moment. "The first wife left after 6 months, he finally said, voice raw. "When I told her about the infertility, she said she'd been looking forward to seeing my eyes in our baby's face. That adoption would always feel like settling." Chioma's chest tightened. The second lasted a year. Kept hoping doctors were wrong. When they confirmed they weren't, she said she couldn't imagine raising someone else's child. The third, fourth, and fifth. He laughed bitterly. Variations on the same theme. They wanted my child. My genetics. My bloodline. As if that's what makes family real. "It's not," Chioma said firmly. "Logically, I know that." He turned to face her fully. "But when 5 women choose to leave rather than build a family with you through adoption, when they all say they want your child specifically, it's hard not to internalize that you're defective. Less than. Not enough." The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open in Chioma's chest. "You're not defective," she said. "Those women were limited in their understanding of what family means. That's their failure, not yours." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I am adopted, and my parents loved me exactly as much as my siblings they had biologically. Because I've seen families built through choice that are stronger than families built through accident. Because—" She paused, then decided to be honest. "Because any child chosen by you would be lucky. You're clearly capable of profound love, even if you hide it behind walls and whiskey." His eyes locked with hers. In the moonlight, she could see the yearning there, the desperate hope fighting against years of rejection. "Why do you care?" he asked softly. "You barely know me. Because your mother is dying, and she's worried about leaving you alone. Because I'm a nurse, and healing people is what I do, even when the wounds aren't physical." She smiled slightly. "And because maybe I see something in you that those 5 women were too blind to notice." "What's that?" "That you're not broken. You're just hurt. And there's a difference." The silence stretched between them, charged with something neither of them wanted to name. Finally, Taehyun reached out and took her hand, the one she'd stitched. His thumb traced over her knuckles. "Thank you, Chioma." His voice was barely a whisper. "For seeing past the walls. Thank you for letting me." They stood like that for a while, hands linked, looking out over the city. 2 wounded people finding unexpected comfort in the dark. And somewhere inside, a seed that had been planted began very slowly to grow. The morning after their rooftop conversation, everything changed and nothing changed. Chioma woke in the chair beside Yunji's bed, her usual spot. But when she opened her eyes, there was a blanket draped over her that hadn't been there when she fell asleep. Cashmere. Expensive. Still holding a trace of woody cologne. Taehyun had been here, had covered her while she slept. Something warm and dangerous bloomed in her chest. "He brought that around 4 a.m., Yunji said, awake and watching with knowing eyes. "Stood there for a long time, just looking at you. then very carefully covered you up and left. Chioma's cheeks heated. He was probably just being considerate. Chioma, my dear. Yunji's smile was gentle. I may be dying, but I'm not blind. Something shifted between you two last night. I can feel it. Had it? Chioma folded the blanket, trying to ignore how it smelled like him. How she wanted to press it to her face and breathe deeply. This was dangerous territory. Professional boundaries existed for a reason. She was the hired help. He was the son. She was leaving in 5 months. This had nowhere to go. But when Taehyun appeared at noon with lunch, not just for his mother but for Chioma too, jollof rice from a Nigerian restaurant an hour away that he must have specifically sought out, she felt those boundaries starting to blur. I thought you might be homesick, he said simply, setting the takeout container in front of her. Chun said this place is authentic. Their eyes met, held. Thank you, she managed. This is very thoughtful. You take care of my mother. The least I can do is make sure you're taken care of too. But it felt like more than that. Felt like he was seeing her not as the nurse, but as Chioma. As a woman far from home, sacrificing for family, trying to stay strong. As someone worth taking care of. Drop a yellow heart if someone has ever done something small that made you feel truly seen. Over the next 2 weeks, a new pattern emerged. Taehyun started coming home earlier. Started spending more time in his mother's room. Started staying for dinner that Chioma had taken to preparing, Nigerian dishes that made Yunji adventurous, Korean food that Chioma was learning to make. They fell into an easy rhythm. Yunji would tell stories from Taehyun's childhood. Chioma would share tales of Lagos. Taehyun would occasionally interrupt with dry commentary that made them both laugh. Felt dangerously like family. And the awareness. The electric charge that ran between Taehyun and Chioma whenever they accidentally touched. Whenever their eyes met across Yunji's bed. Whenever they found themselves alone in the hallway. Grew stronger every day. Chioma tried to ignore it. Tried to focus on her job, on Yunji's declining health, on the fact that she was leaving in 4 months. But her body had other ideas. It happened on a Wednesday night. Yunji had had a bad day. Pain breaking through medication. Breathing labored. The reality of her decline impossible to ignore. Chioma had spent hours keeping her comfortable. Finally getting her settled into an uneasy sleep around 11 p.m. She emerged from the bedroom exhausted. Emotionally wrung out. Only to find Taehyun waiting in the hallway. How is she? His voice was tight with controlled fear. Resting now. But Taehyun. Chioma hesitated. Then decided he deserved honesty. It won't be long now. Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe less. She watched his control fracture. Watched him close his eyes, jaw clenched against emotion. I'm not ready, he said, voice breaking. I'm not ready to lose her. No one ever is. She's the only person who never gave up on me, who never made me feel like I was broken. And I'm going to lose her, and then I'll be... He stopped, turning away. Alone. He was going to say alone. Chioma did something she probably shouldn't have. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him from behind, pressing her cheek against his back. You're not alone, she whispered. Not right now. Not while I'm here. She felt him go rigid with surprise. Then, slowly, his hands came up to cover hers where they rested on his chest. His heart was racing under her palms. Chioma. Her name was a warning and a plea. If you keep touching me like this, I'm going to start wanting things I shouldn't want. What if I'm already wanting them too? The confession hung between them, dangerous and electric. Taehyun turned in her arms, and suddenly they were face to face. Her hands now resting on his chest, his hands finding her waist. The hallway felt too small, the air too thick. This is a terrible idea, he said, but he was leaning closer. Probably the worst, she agreed, but she wasn't pulling away. You're leaving in 4 months. I know. I'm not good at temporary. Neither am I. Then we should stop. Right now. Before this goes somewhere we can't take back. We should. Chioma breathed. Neither of them moved. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. Tell me to stop. I can't. Chioma. Kiss me, Taehyun. Please. Before we're both too smart to let this happen. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was months of loneliness meeting weeks of building tension, meeting the desperate need for connection in the face of approaching loss. His mouth claimed hers with barely restrained hunger, and she opened for him, hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He groaned against her mouth, backing her against the wall, his body pressing into hers. She felt the hard length of him through his slacks, felt her own body responding with liquid heat. God, Chioma, he breathed against her lips. I've wanted this since you stitched my hand. Since you looked at me like I was worth saving. You are worth saving, she gasped as his mouth moved to her neck. You're worth everything. His hands were everywhere, her waist, her hips, sliding under her shirt to touch bare skin. She arched into him, shameless, needing more. Then they heard it. A soft cough from Yunji's room. They froze, broke apart, breathing hard, staring at each other with wild eyes. We can't, Taehyun said, but he was still touching her, his forehead pressed to hers. Not here. Not now. My mother. I know. Chioma's voice shook. I know. But Taehyun, this isn't going away. Whatever this is between us. No. He pulled back, running a hand through his hair. It's not. They stared at each other, want and logic warring visibly on both their faces. Go to bed, Chioma, Taehyun finally said. Before I stop being noble and take you to mine instead. She should have been offended, should have slapped him for the presumption. Instead, she felt heat pool low in her belly at the image. What if I want you to? The words escaped before she could stop them. His eyes went molten. Don't say things like that unless you mean them. I mean them. Chioma. Good night, Taehyun. She forced herself to turn away, to walk toward her room. But she paused at the door. For what it's worth, I think you're worth the risk. All of it. She didn't wait for his response. Didn't trust herself not to turn back. Behind her, she heard him exhale shakily. You're going to destroy me, aren't you? He said softly. Only if you destroy me first, she whispered back. The attack came 3 days later. Chioma was in the kitchen preparing lunch when she heard the first gunshot. For a moment, she froze. Lagos had taught her that sound, taught her to recognize danger. Then training kicked in. She ran for the stairs, ran for Yunji. Chun appeared from nowhere, blocking her path. Get Mrs. Kong to the safe room. 3rd floor, behind the bookshelf. Now. What's happening? Move. More gunshots. Shouting in Korean. The sound of breaking glass. Chioma ran. Yunji was awake, eyes wide with fear. Chioma, what? We need to move. Now. Chioma gathered the older woman. So light now, so fragile, and half carried her across the room. Found the bookshelf Chun had mentioned. Pressed where he'd showed her once in a security briefing she'd thought was paranoid. The shelf swung open, revealing a reinforced room. They made it inside just as more shots rang out, closer now. Chioma sealed the door, settled Yunji on the cot inside, tried to keep her breathing steady. Where's Taehyun? Yunji gasped. I don't know. He has to be okay. He has to. He will be. Chioma gripped her hand. Your son is strong. He'll be fine. But she didn't know that. Didn't know anything except that men with guns were in the house and Taehyun was somewhere out there. The man she'd kissed 3 days ago. The man she'd been carefully avoiding since, terrified of where that kiss would lead. The man who made her feel things she had no business feeling. He had to be okay. 20 minutes of hell passed. Gunfire. Shouting. Silence worse than noise. Then a knock at the door. 3 short. Too long. The signal Chun had taught her. She opened it to find Taehyun. Blood on his clothes. Not his. Gun in hand, eyes wild. His gaze found her, raked over her, checking for injuries. You're okay, he breathed. We're fine. Your mother. He was across the room in 2 strides, checking his mother with shaking hands. I'm here, Iyama. I'm here. Taehyun. Yunji touched his face. You're bleeding. It's nothing. Just a graze. He turned to Chioma. Thank you for protecting her. For his voice broke. Chioma watched this dangerous man, who just killed people, judging by the blood, cradle his dying mother with infinite gentleness. Watched him struggle with the reality that he could protect her from assassins but not from cancer. Everyone's down, Chun reported from the doorway. Park Min-woo's people. Sent to take out the family. Why? Chioma asked. Because I testified against him, Taehyun said flatly. Put his son in prison. He wants revenge. Will he try again? Absolutely. Taehyun's eyes met hers, hard and certain. Which means you need to leave. Tonight. I'll arrange transport back to Nigeria. Full payment for. No. Chioma, this isn't negotiable. You could have died today. So could your mother. You think I'm leaving her now? With 2 weeks left. Chioma's voice shook with anger. You think I'm that kind of person? I think you're the kind of person who deserves to live long enough to see your siblings graduate. His voice turned pleading. Please. I can't. If something happened to you because of me, nothing will happen to me. You don't know that. Neither do you. She moved closer, aware of Yunji and Chun watching. I'm staying. Your mother needs me. And apparently so do you. The last part slipped out unbidden. True nonetheless. Taehyun stared at her, a dozen emotions crossing his face. Then he reached out and pulled her into a fierce embrace, heedless of the blood on his clothes, heedless of their audience. You're either very brave or very stupid, he muttered into her hair. Probably both, she admitted against his chest. Don't get killed, Chioma. I don't think I could survive it. The confession was raw, real, and it changed everything. That night, after Yunji was settled, after the house was cleaned and secured, after Chun posted triple guards, Chioma found herself unable to sleep. She wandered the house, restless, adrenaline still singing in her veins. Found herself at Taehyun's door. She should leave, should go back to her room. She knocked instead. Come in. He was sitting by the window, shirt off, fresh bandage on his shoulder where the graze had been. Muscled and scarred and somehow more vulnerable half-naked than fully clothed. Can't sleep? He asked without turning. No. You? Not really. He finally looked at her. Thank you. For staying. For being stupid and brave. She moved into the room, drawn by something she couldn't name. You would have done the same. Would I? Yes. You're a man who protects what's his. Sometimes violently. But you protect. Is that what you are now? Mine? The question hung between them, loaded with meaning. I don't know, Chioma admitted. What am I? Taehyun? He stood, moved toward her with predatory grace. You're the woman I can't stop thinking about. The woman who stitched my hand and saw past my walls and stayed when bullets started flying. The woman who makes me want things I thought I'd stopped wanting years ago. What things? Family, partnership, someone to come home to. He was close now, close enough to touch. You. Chioma's breath caught. Your mother is dying. I'm leaving in 4 months. This has no future. I know. His hand cupped her face. Believe me, I know all the reasons this is insane. But today, when I thought you might have been shot, when I imagined finding you dead in that safe room, his voice roughened. Chioma, I can't pretend anymore. I want you, maybe only for 4 months. Maybe that's all we get. But I want them. Taehyun. Tell me you don't feel this too. Tell me I'm alone in this, and I'll back off. I'll be professional and distant and I won't touch you again. I can't tell you that. Why not? Because it would be a lie. She pressed her hand over his on her face. I feel it too. This pull between us. This need. And it terrifies me. Me too. He leaned his forehead against hers. I don't do temporary well. I don't do casual. And I sure as hell don't know how to want someone this much and not have it mean everything. Then what do? We make a choice. His eyes held hers. We either walk away now, keep our walls up, stay safe. Or we jump off this cliff together and deal with the crash landing in 4 months. Chioma thought about Lagos, about safety, about the siblings counting on her to stay focused, stay professional, come home with money. Then she thought about Taehyun covering her with a blanket at 4 a.m., about jollof rice from an hour away, about being seen, about feeling alive in a way she hadn't in years. "I vote for jumping," she whispered. His sharp intake of breath was her only warning before his mouth found hers. This kiss was different from the hallway, slower, deeper, a claiming and a surrender all at once. He walked her backward toward the bed, hands mapping her body with reverent hunger. She pulled at his slacks, desperate to feel more of him. "Wait," he breathed against her mouth. "Chioma, wait. If we do this, I want to do this. You should know." He pulled back, eyes searching hers. "I haven't. Since the last wife left, I haven't been with anyone. It's been 3 years. I'm going to. God. I want you so badly. I'm probably going to lose control." The vulnerability in his confession made her heart clench. "Then lose control," she said, pulling him back down. "I want all of you, Taehyun. Not the controlled version. Not the careful version. You." He groaned like she'd wounded him. "You have no idea what you're asking for." "Then show me." That was it. The last thread of his control snapped. He stripped her efficiently, his hands shaking slightly, laid her back on the bed and just looked at her. "You're so beautiful," he breathed. "Chioma, you're. So are you." She reached for him, pulled him down to her. "Stop talking and touch me." He did. His hands mapped every inch of her, reverent and hungry at once. His mouth followed, trailing fire across her skin. When he settled between her thighs, she gasped at the intimacy, at the vulnerability. "I want to make you feel good," he murmured against her inner thigh. "Want to hear you say my name. Can I? Please." What he did next made her forget her name, let alone his. His mouth was devastating, his hands knowing, and when she shattered the first time, it was with his name on her lips. He kissed his way back up her body, settling his weight over her. She felt the hard length of him against her entrance, felt him trembling with restraint. "Chioma," he breathed. "Are you sure? Because once I'm sure." She wrapped her legs around his waist. "I want you, all of you." He pushed into her slowly, giving her time to adjust. They both groaned at the sensation, hot and tight and perfect. "God," Taehyun gasped. "You feel. I can't." "Don't hold back," Chioma urged. "Please. I need all of you." He began to move and it was everything. Overwhelming and perfect and raw. This wasn't gentle lovemaking. This was 3 years of loneliness meeting months of denial, meeting the desperate need to connect before time ran out. "Look at me," he commanded. "Chioma, look at me." She did. Met his eyes as he moved inside her. Saw everything he felt reflected there. Want and need and something deeper, something terrifying. "You feel what we are together?" he gasped. "This isn't just sex. This is." "I know." She pulled him down for a kiss. "I know." They moved together, finding a rhythm that felt ancient and new at once. When she came again, it was with his name a prayer on her lips. He followed seconds later, his face buried in her neck, her name a broken benediction. After, they lay tangled together, breathing hard, reality slowly seeping back in. "That was," Taehyun started. "Yeah," Chioma agreed. "It was." He pulled her closer, pressed a kiss to her temple. "I don't regret this, just so you know. Even if we only get 4 months. Even if it ends badly. I don't regret you." "Good." She traced patterns on his chest. "Because I don't regret you either." They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the dark. Both knowing they just crossed a line they could never uncross. Both knowing they'd do it again. Dawn found them still tangled together. Chioma woke first, disoriented for a moment by the unfamiliar room, the warm body beside her. Then memory flooded back, and with it, a complicated tangle of emotions. No regrets. That's what Taehyun had said. But reality in morning light felt different than passion in darkness. She tried to slip out of bed without waking him, but his arm tightened around her waist. "Where are you going?" His voice was rough with sleep. "Your mother. I need to check on her. Chun is with her. Stay." He pulled her back against his chest. "Just for a minute. Let me pretend this is normal. That you're mine and I'm yours and we have more than 4 months." Chioma's heart clenched. "Taehyun. I know reality exists, but just for this moment, let me pretend." So she stayed. Let herself be held. Let herself imagine a future where she didn't have to leave, where they had time to build something real. Then her phone buzzed. "Chen, Mrs. Kong asking for you both." Reality, intrusive and immediate. They dressed quickly, stole one more kiss that lasted too long, and headed for Yunji's room. The older woman took one look at them and smiled knowingly. "Good morning, my children," she said, her voice weaker than yesterday. "Come, sit with me." They sat on either side of her bed, and Yunji took one hand from each of them, bringing them together. "I don't have much time left," she said without preamble. "Maybe days. So I'm going to speak plainly, and neither of you will interrupt." They stayed silent. "You love each other." It wasn't a question. "I can see it, feel it. And Taehyun, before you start with your walls, I want you to know, you deserve this. You deserve her. You deserve happiness." "Mother." "No." Yunji's grip tightened. "You've spent 3 years punishing yourself for being infertile. 3 years believing you're not enough. But Chioma sees you, really sees you, and she stayed through bullets and blood and your worst moments. That's not pity, son. That's love." Taehyun's eyes were suspiciously bright. "And Chioma." Yunji turned to her. "I know you're afraid. Afraid of leaving your siblings. Afraid of being hurt. Afraid this is temporary. But some connections are worth the risk. Some people are worth changing your whole life for. Mrs. Kong, I leave in 4 months. Do you?" Yunji's smile was gentle. "Or is that just a plan you made before you knew what you might be leaving behind?" Chioma felt tears prick her eyes. "My family needs me. My siblings can be supported from Seoul just as easily as from Lagos." Yunji's words were blunt. "The question isn't whether you can leave. It's whether you want to." The question hung in the air, too big to answer. "I'm going to die soon," Yunji continued. "Probably this week. And before I do, I want to know my son won't be alone. That he has someone who sees past the scars and the money and the violence to the man underneath. Someone who knows that family is about choice, not blood." She squeezed their joined hands. "Build something beautiful from the ashes of your pain. Both of you. Promise me." "Yama." Taehyun's voice broke. "Promise me, son." "I promise." Yunji looked at Chioma, waiting. Chioma thought about Lagos, about duty, about the safe, predictable life waiting for her. Then she thought about Taehyun holding her at 4 a.m., about feeling seen, about love that was terrifying and real. "I promise," she whispered. Yunji smiled, closed her eyes. "Good. That's good. Now let me rest. And you too, go figure out how to build forever from 4 months." They left her sleeping peacefully. In the hallway, Taehyun pulled Chioma into his arms. "I can't ask you to stay," he said into her hair. "I won't ask you to give up your life for me. But God, Chioma, I want to be selfish enough to beg. What if I want to stay?" The words surprised her even as she spoke them. "What if I'm tired of being practical? Tired of doing what makes sense instead of what makes me happy?" He pulled back to look at her. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we figure it out. Together. Maybe 4 months becomes forever. Maybe." He kissed her, deep and desperate and full of hope. And for the first time in years, both of them let themselves believe that maybe broken people could build something whole. Yunji died on a Tuesday morning, 3 days after her confession. Chioma was holding one hand. Taehyun held the other. The sun was streaming through the windows, birds singing outside like the world didn't understand it was ending. Yunji's breathing had been getting shallower for hours. The death rattle, nurses called it, That horrible sound that meant minutes, not hours. Sing for me, Yunji whispered, her eyes on Chioma. That Nigerian song. The one about going home. Chioma's voice broke on the first note, but she sang anyway. An Igbo lullaby her adopted mother used to sing. About journeys ending. About rest after struggle. About going home to ancestors waiting with open arms. Yunji smiled, squeezed both their hands. Build something beautiful, she breathed. Promise me again. I promise, Chioma, Taehyun said, tears streaming down his face. I promise. Take care of him, Chioma. He's stronger than he knows. But he'll need you to remind him. I will, Chioma whispered. I promise. Good. That's good. Yunji's eyes drifted closed. I can see your father. Taehyun, he's waiting for me. He says he's proud of you. So proud. One more breath. Then stillness. The birds kept singing. The sun kept shining. And two people sat holding the hands of a woman who'd loved them both, who'd pushed them together, who'd believed in second chances even as her own time ran out. Taehyun made a sound, raw and animal and broken. Chioma moved to him instinctively, wrapped her arms around him as he shattered. He buried his face in her neck and sobbed like a child, and she held him, her own tears falling into his hair. She's gone, he gasped. She's really gone. I know, love. I'm here. I'm right here. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the wreckage of loss. Outside the door, Chun waited respectfully. The house staff moved quietly, preparing. Death had its rituals, and they would be honored. But in that moment, there was just grief. Just two people clinging to each other because everything else had fallen away. Drop a dove if you've lost someone you loved. This chapter is for everyone carrying that weight. You're not alone. The funeral was 3 days later. A traditional Korean Buddhist ceremony that Chioma didn't fully understand but participated in anyway. Incense and chanting and Taehyun in white mourning clothes, his face carved from stone. She watched him receive condolences from people who looked dangerous, who moved like violence, who called him boss instead of by name. Watched him be strong and controlled and everything his position demanded. Then watched him crack the moment they were alone. That night, he came to her room at 2 a.m., and she opened the door to find him wrecked. I can't do this, he said. I can't be in this house without her. Can't walk past her room. Can't. Chioma, I can't breathe. She pulled him inside, held him while he broke again. Grief wasn't linear, came in waves, and this wave was drowning him. What do you need? She asked. You, just you. Make me feel something other than this. She understood what he was asking. Understood that sometimes bodies needed to confirm they were still alive, still capable of feeling pleasure alongside pain. Are you sure? She asked. Please. She led him to the bed, undressed him slowly, kissing each revealed inch of skin. He was passive at first, letting her care for him, but when she took him in her mouth, he groaned like she'd saved him. Chioma, God. She worked him with hands and mouth until he was trembling, until the grief was momentarily forgotten in pleasure. Then she climbed over him, took him inside her body, and rode him slowly, holding his gaze. You're still here, she whispered. You're still alive. You're still worthy of feeling good. He gripped her hips, meeting her movements. Stay, he gasped. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me. I'm here, right here. They moved together, grief and pleasure tangled. Bodies saying what words couldn't. When he came, it was with her name and a sob, and she held him through both. After, he clung to her like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. I love you, he said into the darkness. I know it's too soon to say it. I know it's not fair to put that on you when you're leaving. But I love you, Chioma. I think I've loved you since you stitched my hand and looked at me like I was worth saving. Her heart cracked open. Taehyun, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. In case, his voice broke. In case you leave and I never get another chance to tell you. Chioma felt tears slide down her temples. I love you too, she whispered. I didn't want to. It wasn't part of the plan. But I do. I love you so much it terrifies me. He kissed her, desperate and grateful. Then stay, please. I'll support your siblings. I'll fly them here for visits. I'll give you anything you need. Just please don't go. Taehyun, I don't even have a visa beyond 6 months. Marry me. The words hung in the air, shocking them both. What? Marry me. He propped himself up on one elbow, suddenly focused despite the grief. Not because of the visa. Not because it's convenient. Marry me because I love you. Because you see me. Because when I imagine my future, you're in every single moment of it. You're grieving. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. His hand cupped her face. My mother just died, reminding me that life is short. That waiting for the right time is bullshit. That when you find someone who makes you want to build a family, you hold on to them. I can't replace your mother. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to build something new with me. Family. Through adoption, like you taught me was possible. Like you showed me was real. His eyes searched hers. Chioma, 5 women left because I couldn't give them my DNA. You stayed because you understand that family is about choice. Marry me. Help me build the family I've always wanted. The one I thought was impossible. Chioma's mind raced. This was insane. They'd known each other 3 months. She had responsibilities in Lagos. Her siblings needed her. But they also needed her to be happy, to be whole, to show them that love was worth the risk. Ask me again in the morning, she said. When grief isn't making the decisions. If you still want this after the sun rises, ask me again. I will, he promised. Every morning until you say yes. Morning came. Chioma woke to find Taehyun already awake, watching her. Marry me, he said simply. Taehyun, I'm sober. I'm not actively grieving in this exact moment. And I still want you to marry me. So ask me why. Ask me all your practical questions. Test whether this is real. So she did. What about my siblings? I'll put them all through university, whatever schools they want. And we'll fly them here twice a year. Fly us there twice a year. They'll never lack for anything. What about my career? I can't just be your wife. You'll work. Hospital, clinic, home nursing, whatever you want. Or start a foundation. Help other terminal patients. You're too good at what you do to stop. What about the danger? The attack? Park Min-woo is dead. Taehyun's voice went flat. I handled it personally after the funeral. The threat is gone. And I'm transitioning the business toward legitimate operations. For you. For our future children. I'm done with the life that requires bulletproof cars. Chioma stared at him. You killed him for me? I killed him for us. For the future we're going to build. His jaw set. I told you. I protect what's mine. And you're mine, Chioma. If you'll have me. I'm supposed to go home in 3 months. Is Lagos home? Or is home wherever you're loved? He took her hand. I'm not asking you to give up Nigeria. I'm asking you to make Seoul your base while we build a family that honors both worlds. Our children will speak Igbo and Korean. We'll eat jollof and kimchi. We'll know both their parents' cultures. Children will adopt, she said, testing. Children will choose, he corrected. The way your parents chose you. The way I'm choosing you now. Not because I have to. Because I want to. Because you're not settling. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Chioma felt something unlock in her chest. All her life she'd been practical. Responsible. The one who made smart decisions. But maybe love wasn't about smart. Maybe it was about brave. Your mother told me some connections are worth changing your whole life for, she said slowly. She was right. And I promised her I'd take care of you. You did. So I guess. She smiled through tears. I guess I have to stay. For your mother. To keep my promise. Is that the only reason? His voice was carefully neutral. No. She cupped his face. I'm staying because I love you. Because when I imagine leaving, it feels like cutting off a limb. Because you make me happier than practical ever did. Because her voice broke. Because I choose you, Taehyun. I choose us. I choose the family we're going to build. He kissed her deeply, thoroughly, with so much relief and joy she could taste it. Is that a yes? He murmured against her lips. That's a yes. I'll marry you. He pulled back, reached for the nightstand, and pulled out a box. A ring, simple, elegant, with a sapphire surrounded by diamonds. I bought this the day after the attack, he admitted. When I thought I might lose you. When I realized I'd rather have you for a short time than never have you at all. I've been carrying it around for 3 days, waiting for the right moment. He slipped it on her finger. Perfect fit. How did you know my size? I'm a crime boss, Chioma. I know everything. Then he grinned. Also, I asked the housekeeper to check your jewelry while you were with my mother. She laughed through tears. Smooth. I have my moments. He kissed her again. So, Chioma Okafor, soon to be Chioma Kong. What do you want to do first? First, we grieve your mother properly. Together. She tangled their fingers. Then we figure out the visa and wedding logistics. Then, she smiled. Then we start looking at adoption agencies. Because I want to give some child what was given to me, a family that chose them, that wanted them. I love you, he breathed. God, Chioma, I love you so much. I love you too, now and for all the years we're going to have. They sealed the promise with their bodies, slow and reverent this time. A celebration of life after death, of choosing hope over fear, of believing that broken people could build something whole. 3 months later, they married. A small ceremony, traditional Korean elements mixed with Nigerian. Chioma wore a hanbok in Igbo colors. Taehyun learned to dance high life, badly, but enthusiastically. Her siblings flew in, overwhelmed by Seoul but excited for their sister. You're sure? Her youngest brother asked at the reception. You're happy? I'm sure, Chioma said, watching Taehyun talk with her grandmother, both of them gesturing wildly despite the language barrier. I've never been more sure of anything. The wedding night was different from their previous encounters. No grief driving them, no fear of separation, just joy, just celebration. Taehyun undressed her slowly in their hotel room, kissing each revealed inch. My wife, he murmured against her skin. Mine. Yours, she agreed, pulling him toward the bed. And you're mine. Always. He settled between her thighs, entering her slowly, both of them gasping at the intimacy. Chioma, I know. I feel it too. They moved together, unhurried, savoring. This wasn't about desperation. This was about promise. About forever. When they climaxed together, it felt like sealing a vow. After, wrapped in expensive sheets, Chioma said, Tell me about the adoption process. What do we need to do? Taehyun smiled. Already thinking about our children? Our mother asked us to build something beautiful. I want to start. Our mother, he repeated softly. I like that. She would have loved you calling her that. She did love me. She told me so, the day before she died. Chioma rested her head on his chest. Said I was already the daughter she'd hoped for. That she was glad you'd finally found someone worthy. You're more than worthy. You're everything. They talked late into the night about the future. About the children they'd adopt, Korean, Nigerian, or both. About the foundation they'd start in Yunji's name for terminal patients. About the legitimate businesses Taehyun was building to replace the criminal empire. About the family they were creating from choice, not chance. 18 months later, they met their daughter. The adoption agency called on a Tuesday. We have a match. A 3-year-old girl. Nigerian mother, Korean father. Parents died in a car accident. She's been in the system for 6 months. No one wants her because she's mixed. Chioma finished, her heart already breaking. Yes, we want her, Taehyun said immediately. When can we meet her? Her name was Grace. Yunji in Korean. Taehyun's mother's name. The orphanage director had given it to her because she needed Grace to survive her tragedy. She was small for 3, with dark skin like Chioma and eyes like Taehyun. Shy, quiet, looking at them with guarded hope. Chioma knelt down to her level. "Hi, Grace. My name is Chioma. This is Taehyun. We've been looking for you." "For me?" The child's voice was barely a whisper. "For you specifically. We wanted a daughter. A strong, beautiful, brave daughter. And here you are." Grace studied them both. "Will you give me back? When you get tired of me?" Chioma felt her heart shatter. "Never. When we choose you, it's forever. No one will ever give you back. Promise. Promise. Cross my heart." Chioma held out her hand. "Want to come home with us?" Grace took her hand tentatively. "Okay. That simple. That profound." The adoption process took 3 more months of paperwork and home visits and legal proceedings. But the moment Grace walked into their home, into the room they decorated with both Korean and Nigerian colors, she looked at them and said, "This is mine. This is yours." Taehyun confirmed, his voice thick. "You're ours. We're yours. We're family now." Grace tested them for weeks, acting out, pushing boundaries, waiting for them to prove her orphanage fears right. They stayed patient, stayed consistent, stayed present. The breakthrough came one night when Grace had a nightmare. Chioma rushed to her room, found her crying. "I dreamed you left me," Grace sobbed. "Oh, baby." Chioma climbed into the small bed, held her close. "We're never leaving you. You're our daughter. Forever." Taehyun appeared in the doorway. "Room for one more?" They piled into Grace's bed. This powerful crime boss, this capable nurse, this traumatized child, and held each other until the nightmares faded. "I love you," Grace whispered. "Yama, Appa, mother, father." Chioma met Taehyun's eyes over Grace's head, saw the same wonder, the same overwhelming love. They'd built this, chosen this, created family from brokenness. And it was beautiful. Over the next 15 years, the family grew. 2 more adoptions, a Korean boy at age 5, Daeho, and twin Nigerian girls at age 2, Amara and Zara, plus Grace's younger biological sister, Blessing, whom they found in the system 5 years after Grace's adoption. Their home in Seoul was chaos and laughter and 5 children speaking multiple languages. Igbo at breakfast, Korean at dinner, English when they wanted to exclude the adults. Taehyun, once the terrifying crime boss, became a man who braided hair, badly, and attended ballet recitals and taught all his children to fight, just in case. Chioma ran the Yunji Foundation, providing in-home nursing for terminal patients, ensuring no one died alone, training other nurses in palliative care. They built the life Yunji had envisioned, beautiful from the ashes of pain. One night, when the children were finally asleep after an epic bedtime battle, Taehyun pulled Chioma into his arms on the couch. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Giving up Lagos for this chaos?" "Never." She kissed him. "Not once. This chaos is everything I never knew I wanted." "Even when Daeho put frogs in Amara's backpack?" "Even then." She laughed. "We made this, Taehyun. We built this family from nothing. From grief and choice and love. 5 children," he marveled. 5 wives left me because I couldn't give them biological children. Now I have 5 children I chose. The universe has a sense of irony. Or justice. Chioma traced his jawline. "You deserved this. Deserved to see that you were never broken. Just building something different. I couldn't have done it without you." He kissed her deeply. "You taught me that family is what you make it. That love is a choice, not an accident. And you taught me that some connections are worth changing your whole life for." She smiled against his lips. "Best decision I ever made." "Second best," he corrected. "Oh, best decision was your parents adopting you. Because without that, we wouldn't have this." Chioma felt tears prick her eyes. "You really think they'd be proud? My parents. I think they're looking down right now, watching you mother 5 children with the same love they gave you. And they're absolutely beaming." He pulled her closer. "Just like my mother is watching me finally understand what she always knew, that I was worthy of this. Of you. Of all of it." They sat together in the quiet house, listening to the sounds of sleeping children, marveling at the life they'd built. Want to go make a sixth? Taehyun teased. Are you insane? 5 is already. She saw his grin. You're joking. Mostly. He kissed her neck. Though I do want to take you to bed and show my wife how much I love her. That I can agree to. They made love in their bedroom. Slower now than in those early desperate days, but no less intense. Years together had taught them each other's bodies, each other's needs. I love you. Taehyun breathed as he moved inside her. Then, now, always, always, Chioma echoed, pulling him deeper. This was their life, their choice, their forever, and it was better than anything either of them had dreamed possible. Chioma stood in the kitchen of their home, now in her 50s, watching chaos unfold. 5 grown children, their spouses, and 7 grandchildren filled the house. Grace, 28, was trying to keep her 3-year-old twins from destroying the living room. Daeho, 25, was teaching his infant daughter to say Iamoni. The twins Amara and Zara, 22, were arguing about university in Ibo. Blessing, 20, was on FaceTime with her boyfriend, half in Korean, half in English. Pure chaos, pure joy. Taehyun appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Our legacy, he murmured. Our choice, she corrected, leaning back against him. That too. Grace approached with the twins. Mama, Dad, can you tell them the story? About how you met. All the grandchildren perked up. Story time. Chioma and Taehyun exchanged glances. They told the story dozens of times, but it never got old. They settled into the living room, grandchildren piled around them. Once upon a time, Chioma began, there was a man who thought he was broken, and a woman who was too practical for love. Taehyun continued. They told the story together, editing for young ears but keeping the truth. About terminal illness and dangerous work. About a nurse from Lagos and a CEO from Seoul. About grief and choice and building family from hope. But Grandpa, one of the twins asked, why did those other ladies leave you? Taehyun looked at Chioma, then at their 5 adopted children, then at the grandchildren representing their legacy. Because they didn't understand that family isn't about where you come from. It's about who chooses you, and who you choose back. Like you chose us? Grace asked softly. Even at 28, she still needed the reassurance sometimes. Like we chose you, Chioma confirmed. Every single day. You weren't born to us. You were chosen by us. And that makes you even more ours. The children beamed. Later, after everyone had gone home, Chioma and Taehyun sat on their balcony, looking out over Seoul. We did it, she said softly. We built something beautiful. We did. He took her hand, the one still wearing the sapphire ring from 25 years ago. 5 children, 7 grandchildren, a foundation that's helped thousands. A completely legitimate business empire. Not bad for 2 broken people. We were never broken. Chioma turned to look at him. This man who'd aged beautifully, silver threading through his hair, laugh lines around his eyes. We were just waiting for each other. Any regrets? It was the question they always asked each other. The one his mother had asked him. Never, Chioma said firmly. You. Only that I didn't find you sooner. That my mother didn't get to see all of this. His voice caught. She'd be so proud. She is proud. She's watching. She knew. Taehyun. She pushed us together because she saw what we'd build. Smart woman, my mother. The smartest. Chioma leaned her head on his shoulder. She gave us the greatest gift, each other. And the wisdom that family is what you make it. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights, marveling at the life they'd created. Want to know a secret? Taehyun asked. Always. Grace just told me she and her husband are looking into adoption. Said she wants to give a child what we gave her. A family that chooses them. Chioma felt tears spill over. She does. She does. Said watching us taught her that adoption isn't second best. It's first choice. His voice was thick with emotion. We broke the cycle, Chioma. Those 5 women who rejected me, they'd have passed that rejection down to their kids. But our children, they're passing down choice, love, acceptance. We did that, Chioma whispered. Together. Together, he agreed. Then, now, always. He kissed her, soft and sweet. The kiss of people who'd loved each other through death and danger and diapers and decades. I love you, Chioma Kong. I love you, Taehyun. Thank you for asking me to stay. Thank you for being brave enough to say yes. They sat together as night fell over Seoul. 2 people who'd been broken finding wholeness in each other, who'd built a family from choice and love and hope. And somewhere, Yunji smiled, watching her son finally understand what she'd always known, that he was never broken, just waiting for the right person to see him clearly. 35 years after they met, Chioma found Taehyun in his study, looking at old photos. He was 76 now. She was 69, both gray-haired and slower moving, but still deeply in love. What are you looking at? She asked, settling beside him. Us. He showed her the photos. Their wedding, Grace's adoption day, each child's addition to the family. Grandchildren, great-grandchildren now too, 12 of them. We built quite the legacy, she marveled. We built what your parents built, what my mother prayed for, a family rooted in choice. He took her hand. Chioma, if you could go back to that first day in the airport, knowing everything that would happen, the grief, the danger leaving Nigeria, would you still choose this? She didn't hesitate. Every single time, without question. You. I choose you faster. Wouldn't waste a single day pretending I didn't love you. He kissed her wrinkled hand. You saved me, you know, not from bullets or violence, from believing I was unworthy. We saved each other, she corrected. I was living half a life before you, being practical instead of brave. You taught me that love is worth the risk. And you taught me that family is what you make it. They sat together, looking at the evidence of their life. Every photo a choice, every face a testament to love multiplying. No regrets? He asked one more time. Never, she said. You. Only that I get one lifetime with you. I'd choose 1,000 more. Chioma smiled. Then let's make sure this one counts. They sat together as they had for 35 years, 2 broken people who'd built something beautiful, who'd proven that love could heal, that family was what you made it, that different didn't mean broken. Just different, and beautifully, perfectly whole. Thank you, fam, for riding this entire emotional journey with us. From grief to love to family to legacy, this is what romance is really about. Not just the happy ending, but the beautiful life built from broken pieces. If the story touched your heart, smash that like button. Comment below. What's your definition of family? Who chose you? Who did you choose? Share this with someone who needs to hear that they're not too broken for love. That family is what you make it. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say yes to love even when it terrifies you. Subscribe for more Afro-K dark romances that will make you cry, make you think, and make you believe in love again. Until next time, besties. Remember, you're not broken. You're not too much. You're not unworthy. You're just waiting for someone brave enough to see you clearly and choose you anyway. Black heart, green heart. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who chooses you every single day. That's what love looks like. That's what forever means.